So basically, in a nutshell, my communication is not where it should be. Even in terms of enjoying the process of the journey, it still pretty much sucks. So how does this tie back into making sure that this is a one versus business model video or my Wiry-esque video? What I present to you, viewer, is that you notice how shitty my communication is right now, and you'll notice that even though I'm still trying to make these videos, I still don't make as much sense as I could, and bravely doing them may not be enough, but it's still me pushing through and becoming confident about it, and that's part of the solution already. But what I'll really try to present to you is maybe several solutions to this problem of how to make a sacrifice that may or may not be worth it. And that's a double part for this, but the first problem is obviously for me personally was the communication, and the other problem was why I would make the sacrifice to improve it, if even quote unquote sacrifice. So let's say for you the problem is not communication, but let's say for you personally the problem is that you have a workaholicism addiction. You work too much, and maybe you work up beyond 40, 50, 60 hours a week. There's little math that is only 168 hours a week or 165. Let's say you work like 70 or 80 hours a week, and you're a workaholic, like an extreme workaholic to the degree that you shouldn't have to be. But you don't know how to pull back from it because you make a living doing something that's maybe like a, I dare say, white market job. It's you watch Marsh Coffee, you want the rest of the context for that. But yeah, it's like I make aggressive videos on there, anarchism, but and then I run one business model on my Wiry. My God, but at least that makes me a little more freelance or whatever. Anyways, either way, it's content creator, whatever. It's if you have that kind of addiction with workaholism, then you may not think it's worth. Then that would actually, at least by that example, not just the communication one I made earlier, for myself and you guys. By that example, it would make sense that you wouldn't want to reel back from workaholism because you think it's worth it, and you also think there's no other way. It makes sense that it would be not only a problem to be workaholic, but that you wouldn't want to make the sacrifice to improve on it or work against it because you don't think it's worth pulling away from being a workaholic because you either think there's no way to do that, or you don't think it would be worth it. And that's how I would make sense to you guys a little bit more with that. Even if you still know what's coming out of my mouth right now. I'm sorry. I speak too fast and I don't make sense. Damn. Or write too much. Just talk too much. There's a lot of issues for myself. Not just this posture. There's a lot, even on camera presence wise. But we'll get to that later. Maybe other videos. But so between my communication and your workaholism, let's tether this together. So my problem with communication is not just that I suck at it, but that I don't know why I would change it. Your problem might be, in this example, you work too much, but you also don't know why you would stop working too much. Okay? Let's go with that. So, if you want to improve on being more laxative and not as hard on yourself, literally, by working too much, if the sacrifice for that is as hard as for you as the sacrifice for communication improvement is for me, part of it was ego. For me, part of it was losing a part of who I really was. If that's the same for you with workaholism, you don't want to be less of who you are, and you don't want to lose your idea of your ideal pride, which you think you still deserve, whether ego death is a myth or not. And that's another false I can get to later. So many ideas. I do this all the time, so I always claim I'll do something later, whether I do or not. Many people think I would never will, but I always make those promises to the loss if I can. I always try to go through it. I promise it with the intention to do it, so I never don't try to lie about it. There's one solution to this that I can say right off the bat, and it is that you never lose everything you have. This could be spiritual, and this could also be literal, but you never lose everything you have. There's a thing with storytellers and writing, being an author, being a story writer, where when you create a character as an author, and you think that you're only giving the character personality traits that you choose, you'll always bleed into the character that you have created with your own personality. Parts of you will always be into that character that you're developing. This is the same with a content creator on YouTube making videos about a niche that they don't think has nothing to do with them, but their own life story and lifestyle in real life will also bleed into their videos. So the content creator will make the videos based on their life on accident. The author will make the characters of their story based on themselves from in real life to the fiction on accident. This is the same thing I'm going to correlate to you guys and myself. If you're a workaholic and you don't know how to give up that part of your life for something better for yourself, if you think that's even possible, or if you even think that's even reasonable, just know that you'll never lose all that you have. You'll never lose all you have with that sacrifice. Even no one believes that you think that that's a sacrifice. Even if people think you're full of shit for that. You'll never lose it. Trust me. So that's one thing. The other solution I can give you is that it's not so much that you get what you give, but you do necessarily have to understand that you don't get what you deserve, you get what you attract, and you get what you are. And that's a more manifestation, law of attraction kind of thing for astrology, but that helps a lot for some people. If that's the second solution, which is that you get what you attract and what you are, then my third solution will be that you, and I already know how to say this on the tip of my tongue, but like almost. So as you don't lose everything you have, you get what you attract. Third one should be that you, for the workaholic who wants to know why it's worth sacrificing, or if it's even possible worth sacrificing, you have to give up what you, I mean, not necessarily that would be contract number one, solution number one, but in order to get, and this is a cliche, I'm sorry, but I'll expand this in my own words, it'll probably be good anyways, but it will probably be really good, hopefully, bragging a little. In order to get where you want to be, you have to do what you haven't done before. And that is a jaded cliche, but hear me out. If there are things that you've been put on the back burner, things that you never really thought you would do, things you're afraid of, think of it in terms that you will have to at least do something about what you have. You never do too much effort, it's a balancing act. You never push against the currents if they're actually doing you a favor. But at the same time, you never do jack squat. Balancing act being that you don't have to just sit still and expect the time to heal all wounds, because time technically doesn't heal all wounds. It just, even that's true to an extent, but it's not always the literal case. So in order to get where you want to be, you have to do things you've never done before. And that would be my third solution. My fourth and final solution will be for the workaholic and for the communicative illiterate here, giving his example. Actually, I could give one more example for someone like you. Instead of workaholic, let's say you're actually let's say you're something similar to having coherency issues. Let's say you are a durated fetish, like I've described before on the channel before. Durated fetish being someone who wants things to last longer, or not even in a thantophobic sense, but more like there's this abstract philosophy I have for something that I can't really explain. The inside rally point culture I mentioned before, where it's like you can repurpose a building, or you can go in the middle of the dark in the night and look at a warehouse and be in awe. And there's certain feelings like that I don't know how to explain or even connect properly. So duration fetish is my way of explaining that a little bit better. Let's say you're a duration fetishist. If you even don't know what that is, it's okay. Just go along with it for now. You're a duration fetishist, and I am, instead of a communicative issue person, let's say instead of communication, I have an issue with, which I think I have an issue with this before, but I have an issue with setting boundaries. Because I used to have zero boundaries, because I used to be someone who didn't believe in pushing others away, or making hurting people who were just like me, in the same situation, or even the same personality, and soul, whatever. So my boundaries setting issue and your duration fetish issue. Okay, so my final solution for both of those, as the second set of examples. Well, even though the first one had three, but my last solution for these two extras, the alternatives, will be that for both of us, for our sakes, we're going to have to want to think of this in terms of something that I call a fable to sustain, and that's the alternative name I gave Good Evil Chronicles. But it was like a fable to sustain is a phenomenon where things that don't normally fit, like I just said earlier, connections that didn't fit, like things that didn't seem to connect. A fable to sustain. Fable obviously means like animal story, but like it also could be like an alternative the human experience. So it's like that's a very philosophical way to see it. But a fable to sustain is more like it's an amalgam of experiences and combinations that don't actually fit, and you still make something out of it that actually makes it very interesting and unique. Almost as if unique things can actually literally exist, even though nothing's truly new, technically. Who knows? but I wanted that. So yeah, my solution is a fable to sustain, meaning that you define your own experiences and you try to find a way to have a reason or a purpose for what happened, no matter what literally happened.